The truth is that many people today are facing lots of challenges. Some people have lost their jobs and their sources of income. Others are being overworked and underpaid. Some are struggling with their physical and mental health, whilst others are facing difficulties in their relationships. Many people we know or us ourselves have lost loved ones, close friends, or family. And if you're a youth, you have additional concerns: climate change and a sustainable future, technology competing for our jobs, things like AI and so on, the spiraling costs of living, and related to that, the increasing scarcity of resources. There's the social issues of how groups relate by race, by religion, by gender. And of course, in the midst of all of this, we're seeing wars and competition by places like Russia, Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, and the rising BRICS alliances. All the while, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And everyone feels like they're caught in this matrix and they want to escape this life of economic slavery and drudgery and poverty and live their best life. So, where do we start if we want to fix our situation? First thing, we recognize that success is mostly about attitude. It's 90% attitude, 10% physical. And attitude takes you a great part of the way towards achieving your goals and objectives. And to that end, today we're seeing online a range of different individuals and characters who are speaking to that issue and exhibiting traits or certain characteristics that people are gravitating towards. We see in persons like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, David Goggins, characters like Thomas Shelby, and even political figures in the international arena. Content on these and others have been received with massive interest and large viewerships online. And people are listening to what they have to say in a means to get out of this matrix and get out of the shackles that accompany it. The messages we hear are around the need for resilience, for keeping the faith, for establishing a goal or setting a goal and striving towards that as the means to success. Content repeatedly resound around perseverance, patience, endurance, staying humble and staying committed, staying focused. And a lot of what we are hearing by way of solution are different elements of one central concept, which is mental toughness. And by that we mean the ability to face challenging environments and stay focused and continue to perform. So persons who have mental toughness are able to survive and function in different situations, provide for dependents perhaps, or create and enabling a safe environment. The person can achieve goals, is better able to source and organize resources, overcome setbacks and failure, stay healthy physically and mentally, and control their emotions and their behaviors, and generally maintain a level of order in a volatile, dynamic environment where you're seeing faster changes with deeper impacts. So, where does Islam fit into all of this? It is expected that every single practicing believer is mentally tough or mentally strong. Every single one, male or female. If you are following Islam, you don't really have a choice in the matter. Mental toughness is inevitable. You can't really escape it. We are told in the Quran, for example, on one part that we'll face trials in this life. We'll certainly test you with a touch of fear and famine and loss of property and life and crops, but give glad tidings to those who persevere. We are told in the hadith in Al-Tirmidhi, those whose religious commitments are strong will be tested more severely, and the trials to the prophets, alayhi wasalam, were the strongest. You've probably heard of this in a different saying: the strongest soldiers get the hardest fight. And we have many examples of this in the lives of the prophets of Islam, peace be upon them. Some were tempted, some were ignored by their family and their community, some were betrayed by their companions, some were persecuted, and driven out of their communities or their societies, and some were tested repeatedly, time and again. Number of different prophets in a number of different ways throughout the course of history, tried, tested in so many different ways, and were able to overcome. And within those, we have numerous different examples based on the different personality profiles, based on the different communities that they were existing in, based on the different challenges that they were forced to endure. In the same way, Almighty Allah tells us that we will also be tested. And He gives us a number of assurances in that regard, a social contract almost, if you will, in writing in the Quran. And these help us as Muslims to frame our psychology and thoughts in times of difficulties. We are told in the Quran, for example, we will not be given more than we can bear. We are told in a hadith, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give you more, He tries you. In fact, we are told in the Quran, for indeed with hardship will be ease. So we are taught to build a direct relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't need any intermediary, a priest or pundit or even imam. The Quran tells us in 33 verse 3, وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلٌ. And put your trust in Allah, and sufficient is Allah as a disposer of affairs. We are taught, in fact, to turn to Almighty Allah for anything that we need or desire, even if it is a broken shoelace. And of course, when we do so, we are taught as Muslims that Allah will provide for us from sources we never expect, and He will never let us down. There are many, many ways Islam helps us to achieve success in this life and building mental toughness and resilience, not only to survive, but to succeed and thrive. One way of achieving this is Salat. Pray 5 times a day, winter or summer, rain or shine, tired or energized. Once it's binding on you, you have to do it. And we hear in the call to prayer, Hayya alal falah, come to success. So Salat brings discipline, it brings commitment to duty, it brings reliance on Almighty Allah, and establishes a direct personal communication with Almighty Allah 5 times per day. It helps us to persevere in our struggles. If we're struggling with a problem and 5 times a day we turn to Him and pray for a resolution, do you think He'll let us down or ignore us? We are told in the Quran, and when my servants ask you, O Muhammad, concerning me, indeed I am near. And also we are told, I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me. So Salat is one institution that helps us to build mental toughness. Another one is fasting in the month of Ramadan. Abstain from all food and all drink and sexual relations from the break of dawn to sunset, every day for the month. To start with, fasting helps us to build willpower. Through fasting, we learn that we do what we need to, not what we feel to. Fasting helps us to establish discipline and time management. Fasting helps us to refine or adjust our attitudes. We have to avoid backbiting, slander, cursing, succumbing to temptation, succumbing to temper. We have to show patience. We have to not allow provocations to overcome us and spoil our fast. We learn to be patient and tolerant in those trying times we face. Fasting teaches us perseverance. From the start of fasting, we know what time it would end, which is at sunset. The duration may be 9 hours, it may be 14 hours, or even 20 hours, depending on where you're located and what time of the year we're in. Whatever it is, we need to endure the period. Fasting teaches us contentment. It helps us to identify those less privileged and be more humble. We learn how to function when we are going without, and it makes us more sympathetic to those who are less fortunate, and it makes us more inclined to help them. And when fasting is completed, we become more contented. We are in a position where we can better appreciate what we have and what we are blessed with and be able to enjoy it. When we follow the tenets of Islam, physically our bodies undergo transformation from the diet to habits and time schedules. Mentally, we build endurance, patience, perseverance, humility, contentment. Spiritually, we become more devoted and establish a stronger connection with Almighty Allah, and we become more aware of what is and is not in our control. By doing these, we become stronger, and by obeying the commands of Allah, we are in fact helping ourselves to become better, stronger, and more resilient versions of ourselves that we were before we started. We are stronger for it. We set the stage for us to do more, to be more, to reach further in life, and to be more accommodating and of greater support to others in their struggles. May Almighty Allah allow us to obey His commands, embrace them, benefit from them, grow through them, and better be able to cope with the changing conditions of life that we may experience, and through these, grow closer to Him. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. If you want to learn more about Islam to live the best life for this world and the next, sign up for our Islamiyat program at the MAIinstitute.com and learn the principles, the practices, and the culture of authentic Sunni Islam. Classes start in September each year and is fully online. We look forward to having you on board at the Islamiyat program at MAIinstitute.com. Assalamu alaikum.